let's talk about Black Mass. Nice to meet you for the first time, joking.
Yes.
I was thinking when I was watching the film that, mafia stories are very similar to Greek tragedies and they're very similar to Shakespearean literature. Does that make for a very enticing, complex story that you can play with?
It does. When I first considered directing the film and started really developing the screenplay and the narrative, it reminded me of not only an American tragedy, which it is, but also of a Shakespearean tragedy. And you really can't make this stuff up. Truth is much stranger than fiction when it involves the Bulger brothers, because on the one hand you have the most ruthless gangster in Boston's history, and you have the most powerful politician in the city who happens to be his brother, and then his childhood friend who's ascending the ranks of the FBI. It's an intoxicating cocktail.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to believe that it's real life story instead of good writing.
Well, so many people said to me, I can't believe this happened, Scott. And I said, it did. All of it. It's remarkable. So I was really drawn to not only the complex characterization, but that time in Boston in which certain criminals and certain lawmen were virtually indistinguishable.
True. The challenge with someone like Johnny Depp, who's so likable to audiences all over the world, is to make him feel so dangerous. Challenge done, but how difficult was it?
Well, a big challenge, because Johnny is not only one of our best actors, a true national treasure, but people know his work so well. He's beloved and generally plays likable characters because he's so just innately likable as a human. So to see him physically transform, which was remarkable, but his interior and his emotional transformation was a sight to behold. It was remarkable and critical in capturing who this man was.
I know a lot of information is available, official information is available about the real life events. How much personal information is available about Whitey Bulger and who he was?
Well, probably not so much in terms of on the internet, but in dealing with many people who knew Whitey personally in South Boston, in dealing closely with the FBI and the prosecutors, we were able to put together enough that Johnny and I could really shape Whitey Bulger into very closely to who he was, which is a man who was very complex, very cunning, extremely intelligent, but also quite deadly.
It's true, a real psychopath.
Indeed, yes.
Benedict Cumberbatch becomes also someone else. I mean, obviously the dynamic of the characters was very important for them together. How close were they in working together and establishing that complexity?
Well, it isn't easy for actors to come to the set, meet for the first time, and then play brothers. But you get a quick understanding that these two really care for one another, that both are somewhat aware of what's happening with the other's careers. Boston was a small city, so for Billy Bulger to be the president of the state senate, but while his brother was operating with impunity in the city, it all comes back to family, and in the end that you can't quite outrun your past. But to see those two actors in the same frame, even though briefly, was really remarkable because they're two of the best actors working.
What do you think makes those stories so fascinating to the audiences? From the Godfather movies to the Soprano TV series to Departed to this.
Well, in many gangster pictures and crime movies, the protagonists, if you call them protagonists, lead a glamorous lifestyle. So you can watch a film and you can really be a part of what these men are doing, even though you know that it's reprehensible, but you can escape for 2 hours with them. Some of them lead aspirational lifestyles. But the gangster film, of course, started in the 30s and 40s, and Warner Brothers, known as the Gangster Studio. The gangster pictures really took root during the Great Depression, when people were really struggling financially, emotionally, and these characters looked like them. They cast men like James Cagney and Humphrey Bogart and Edward G. Robertson, men who looked like real people. So from a very early time, when the gangster picture began, people could see themselves on screen. And from that point forward, as these pictures grew in stature and had a great, almost tragic feeling to them, I think people really cared for the characters, even though they do things that sometimes make us wince.